Radio, Sultanate of Oman, 90.4, and the Sultan Qaboos Center for Islamic Culture presents
In the monsoon rain,
Reaching Out Through Dialogue. Listen and get involved personally in this holy month of Ramadan. Reaching Out Through Dialogue. Presented by Hatem Hatif Al Abdul Salam. Produced by Matloob Ayel Al Wahabi. Reaching Out Through Dialogue, a special on Radio Sultanate of Oman, 90.4.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear listeners, welcome to our program Reaching Out Through Dialogue. I'm your host Hatem Al Abdul Salam. Today we have an interesting another topic, which is what Islam offers human civilization. And to take us through this topic, please join me in welcoming our distinguished guest, Mr. Khalid Ahmed Al-Rawahi, who is an HR advisor in the oil and gas industry. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi.
How are you, Brother Khalid?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
I hope you're feeling well today.
Fine, thank you. Peace be upon you and the audiences.
Inshallah. It's an honor to have you on the show, and I hope to see you in the coming years as well in our show.
Thank you very much.
Inshallah. Muslims claim that Islam has offered a lot to the human civilization. This can be observed in many fields such as medicine, engineering, mathematics, astronomy, geography, and so on. Today we're going to discuss some of these contributions, why majority of today's Muslims are lagging behind, and the way forward. So, Brother Khalid, if we start, we come across the word civilization many times.
Right.
And people tend to confuse on what is a civilization. Can you kindly take us through the proper definition of civilization?
I will do, inshallah. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, and prayers and peace of Allah be upon the Messenger of Allah, the last Prophet, and his family and companions, and whoever followed him or followed them till the day of judgment. Whomsoever Allah guides, none can lead astray, and whomsoever He sends astray, none can guide. When we talk about civilization and definition of civilization, let us think about what made the human civilization actually. It's a collective sum of different contributions throughout the ages, usually led by dominant leading cultures at any certain point in history. Actually, civilization primarily, the term has been used to refer to human cultures that are complex in terms of technology, science, and division of labor. And we're talking about the culture, it is the set of shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterize an institution, organization, or group. So the level of advancement of civilization is often measured by its progress in agriculture, occupational specializations, urbanism. Aside from these core elements, civilization is often marked by any combination of a number of secondary elements, including a development, transportation system, writing, standards of measurements, contracts, characteristics, art, style, which may pertain to specific cultures. And politics, astronomy are obvious measures of any culture or civilization.
So basically anything common within a group can form a civilization.
Indeed, and actually the advancement of any civilization or advancement of civilization is strongly linked with knowledge and development of a nation.
Now, Brother Khalid, we understand that the first command to the Prophet of Islam, peace be upon him, was related to seeking knowledge. What can you tell us about this?
This is indeed an Islamic principle on knowledge and development. Actually, exchange and development of knowledge is an Islamic principle. It is stated clearly in Quran. It says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير. The translation of this is, O mankind, we created you from a single pair of a male and a female, and made you into nations and tribes, that you may know each other, means exchange knowledge.
Brother Khalid, which civilization has contributed the most to the human civilization? We come to understand that there are many civilizations that passed, such as the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, and the Islamic Empire as well. So, what do you think is the civilization that contributed the most?
Believe it or not, no one culture has a monopoly on civilization. And in Quran it says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. Such days of varying fortunes we give to people by terms. So talking about Roman, Byzantine civilization, Greek, Western, Chinese, Indian, Persian, Islamic cultures, all contributed to the human civilization. I would like also to share with you a quote by Bertrand Russell in his book of History of Western Philosophy. He says, to us, it seems that the Western European civilization is civilization, but this is a narrow view. End of the quote. Also, there seems to be a necessity to the diversity of religions, and this diversity may help us to understand our humanity and our relationship to God. It says in Quran, if your Lord had so willed, he would have made mankind one community, but they will continue to remain divided. So for each one of you, several communities, we have appointed law and way of conduct, while the essence of religion is identical. If God had so willed, he would have made all of you one community, but he has not done so, that he may test you in what he has given you. So compete in goodness. To God shall you all return, and he will tell you the truth about what you have been disputing. Having said that, now let me share with you what an English author named Herbert George Wells said about Islam. He said, the Islamic teaching have left great traditions for equitable and gentle dealings and behavior, and inspire people who nobility and tolerance. These are human teachings of the highest order and at the same time practical. Till the end of the quote, where he said, Islam is replete with gentleness, courtesy, and fraternity. End of Herbert quote.
As per the saying or the proverb that you said just now, we understand that Islam influences the modern world.
Indeed.
Okay, in many areas, such as daily living activities and science. What is the drive behind this, Brother Khalid?
The drive of Islamic contribution to all of that. That is Islamic, as I've mentioned, it has it's the principles which promote advancing civilization. The Quran takes a realistic view of human life and attempts to improve it. For example, slavery, for example, which existed at the time of the Quran revelation, was not immediately forbidden, but the right of slaves were established. They must be fed, clothed, not overworked, or treated cruelly, and there must be a way for them to earn their freedom. The Prophet and his companions gave such of their own resources for buying the freedom of slaves. Other punishments that are mentioned in the Quran can be understood as maximum punishment, and over time have been interpreted with a spirit of mercy by the Islamic legal system. Another principle which promoted advanced civilization is justice and equality.
That is very important, I think. Justice, any society or any community or any civilization has to be based on justice and equality.
Sure. Without it, then if you don't have justice, you don't have peace, you don't have development. As simple as that. Talking about human rights, equality guaranteed by religion, no ethic or racial discrimination, freedom of religion in Islam, sincerity in performing work, seeking knowledge continuously from the cradle to the grave, always aspiring to achieve the best in whatever one does. Those are Islamic principles that promoted advancing civilization.
Now, you gave us a lot of good things, Brother Khalid, and you glorified the Islamic civilization. Now, Brother Khalid, what is the contribution of Islam to today's life or today daily living?
Tell you about contributions of Islamic culture on today's daily living. I'll give you a few examples of that. Let me share with you what Sir George Branded showed in his book, The Genuine Islam. He said, I have always held the religion of Muhammad in high estimation because of its wonderful vitality. It is the only religion which appears to me to possess the assimilating capacity to the changing phase of existence, which can make itself appeal to every age. This is the end of the quote. Let me give you some few examples where in our modern life, especially in the Western life, some words are used. Originally, they're coming from Arab world, which the Arab at that time, the Muslims in general. An example of cotton, for example, is from the Arabic word cotton. Sofa, for example, is Arabic sofa, which is a long bench. Alcohol, from Arabic alcohol. Algebra, from Arabic al-jabr, literally the reduction. Algorithm, from Arabic al-khawarizm, from al-khawarizm, Arabian mathematician.
Who was a mathematician.
Indeed, he was the Arabian Muslim mathematicians. Yeah.
Now, what about the contribution to science? Are there any contributions to science from the Islamic civilization?
The intellectual contributions of Islamic civilization and Islamic culture to the human civilizations, they are ample. Before the advent of Islam, people worshipped objects of nature, and this was called shirk, associating others with God. Islam urged that its followers to study nature, with which scientific thinking and process started. Before Islam, there was no concept of experimentation and observation. The universe was an object of worship for man rather than the object of investigation. It was this great scientific contribution of Islam that completely changed the history of mankind on the earth. Islam gave scientific method to the world. Before Islam, people believed in ancient traditional knowledge without subjecting it to experimentation. Muslims' history is a witness to the fact that Muslims made tremendous progress in scientific knowledge in the beginning. For example, Bayt al-Hikmah, House of Wisdom, was the intellectual center and university that translated hundreds of books from all languages. First known universities was in Damascus, in Cordoba, Tunisia, and Morocco. So the renowned British thinker and philosopher Bertrand Russell says in explicit terms that the Muslims had promoted scientific knowledge and education and led the world in science. And when Europe was still in the Dark Ages, all brilliant Islamic civilization at that time flourished from India to Spain. For example, in medicine, the Muslims contributed to the field of science was tremendous and remarkable during the Middle Ages. Give an example of Al-Razi in 939 and Ibn Sina were the greatest physicians of their times. Ibn Sina worked Al-Qanun, Canons of Medicine, formed half of the medical curriculum of the European universities in the later part of the 15th centuries, and continued as a textbook to be taught in the universities of West up to about the late of 15th century.
So it seems like the Muslims have contributed a lot to the field of medicine.
Indeed. Another example, the Muslims promoted pharmacology and invented methods of distillation and sublimation that laid the foundation of modern pharmacy. Oxford published, by the way, Zahrawi's books on surgery in 1778. Ibn Masawi in 857 was the first in history of medicine who wrote a complete treatise on ophthalmology called 10 Essays on the Eye. Another example, Jabir bin Hayyan was the pioneer of modern chemistry.
Yes, this is really amazing.
Indeed.
That Islam is rich in its in its culture and its science and everything else. Now, what about mathematics?
Mathematics, another example. For Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khawarizmi book titled Hisab al-Jabr was this is the calculation of integration and equation, was the first book on the subject that was translated in the 12th century and was taught as a textbook in the universities of Europe for many centuries. He also introduced to the West Arabic numerical called algorithm. Muslims introduced new branch of mathematics and organized arithmetic of numbers. The zero. The zero has a great importance in arithmetic, and Khawarizmi was the first to use zero in the 9th century.
Amazing.
Indeed. Another example in the astronomy, for example. Muslim scientists made a valuable contribution to the field of astronomy. The proof is the names of many stars and technical terms of astronomy have their Arabic origin till today.
Tell us some of them.
I would like to quote here a few examples. If you allow. Names of the stars. Akrab, from the word Arabic Aqrab, which is scorpion. Al-Jadi, which is the kid. At-Tayr, in the English terms, At-Tayr. Al-Tayr, the flyer. Dinab, which is Dhinab, the tail. Nadir, which is Nazir, the preacher, so on.
It's amazing. We never thought of it that way. Maybe even us as Muslims, I think we tend to forget our history and that we contributed a lot. And I think we need to teach the next generation about our history and our past and the great achievements that Muslims have achieved.
Indeed, and that's not the only thing. Give it an example in geography. Muslims made remarkable advancement in geography. I don't remember a few of those Western scientists who mentioned geography, but remember the Al-Biruni, while working in the area of the present-day Pakistan, measured the radius of the Earth, which is only 15 kilometers short of present-day accepted measurements of the Earth. By virtue of knowledge of geography, the Muslims gained control and mastery over seas routes and tourism. The credit goes to Muslims marines who discovered sea route between Europe and India. Vasco da Gama in the 1524, the famous Portuguese sailor, discovered sea route between India and Europe, which went through Cape of Good Hope, Ras Raja Saleh. This great sea discovery was made possible with the help of a Muslim Arab mariner, Ahmed ibn Majid, who in 1498 piloted Vasco da Gama from Africa to India.
Amazing. Now, Brother Khalid, what about in the field of histography?
Histography, another field where Muslims contributed actually to the human civilization. Ibn Khaldun, in his book Muqaddimat Ibn Khaldun, has for the first time in human history explained and promoted principles of historical development. He has critically analyzed the effect of climate, environment, morality, and spirituality on history. He formulated the principles of the rise and fall of the nations. It can be therefore rightly claimed that he laid the foundation of modern history and sociology. As you can see, the intellectual and academic achievements of Muslims has a great impact on Western mind, Western civilization, for example, it gives rise to humanistic movement. So it gives rise to humanistic movement. Historical science came into being. Scientific experimentations and observations started. Harmony and understanding was created between philosophy and faith.
Now, Brother Khalid, what are the Islamic principles that promoted advancing civilization?
As previously mentioned also, the Islamic principles that promote advancing civilization was justice and equality, and you acknowledge that, the human rights, freedom of religion, sincerity in performing work, seeking knowledge continuously, and always aspiring to achieve the best in whatever one does. Those are the teachings of Islam.
Now we go to our next point, Brother Khalid. We heard a lot of good things that you mentioned about the Islamic civilization, and we're wondering why majority of today's Muslims are lagging behind.
So why majority of today's Muslims are lagging behind?
Yeah.
In the past 50 years, many countries have caught up with the rich and developed Western world. Japan, South Korea, Taiwan and Singapore, with virtually no natural resources, have created advanced, urbanized and prosperous societies, complete with the world-class technology that often exceeds that which is found in the West. India, Brazil and China, although not yet fully developed, now all possess large and affluent middle classes that did not exist just a few decades ago. The majority of Muslim world, on the other hand, has struggled during this era of unpredicted global wealth creation. These countries have profited almost solely by happy geological accident from oil and gas extraction. Beyond these activities, economic activity in Muslim countries remains scant, low technology and strictly oriented towards local consumptions. Despite trillions of dollars in oil revenue over the past 60 years, Muslim progress in many other areas such as scientific research, social issues and education lags badly behind the rest of the world. And guess what? How could this be the case? We lagged in science and technology in the present time, whereas the Quran has laid great stress on observation and reflection upon things created in the universe. And this is all we call science. It brings us closer to Allah. Muslim history is a witness to the fact that Muslims made tremendous progress in scientific knowledge in the beginning. Majority of Muslims have less nowadays, and this is one of the facts actually we are facing. Majority of Muslims have less temptation on acquiring knowledge and teach it to the people. Then I think the basic reason is the education. Muslims, as a majority, all over the world are less educated. No due importance to education. Another reason, most Muslims have been misled by political parties reinforcing religions' identities over national, thus confining them into mental gutters far away from Islamic principles. We believe that what Islam really teaches has been misunderstood and quite often destroyed to the extent the word Islam gives rise to fear or mistrust today. So misunderstanding Islam instructions or choose not to follow channel the following four issues to be part of the majority of Islamic world. Lack of innovation, lack of principle responsibility, lack of meritocracy, lack of skilled labor. Those contributed mainly to to the lagging which are Muslims struggling and facing in today's time.
So basically what we're trying to say is Muslims should go back to the teachings of the Quran and Islam and contemplate and adhere to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to seek knowledge, and that is the only way that we can move on to the fast track and be among those who have advanced in the past. Maybe the distractions that are there in our time, okay, which has contributed to this lagging. Muslims now focus more on materialistic things rather than the spiritual aspect. So they seek behind wealth and entertainment and enjoyment, and they have left out the part where they were commanded to seek knowledge.
Indeed, and different ideology also added on that. When any act of violence, for example, especially terrorism, is given a religious justification, it is necessary to distinguish whether the violence is inherent in the religion or ideology, or whether the religion is being destroyed to justify the violence for political purposes. If the latter is the case, then it is the obligation of the larger community to condemn the use of religion to justify immoral or criminal acts.
Brother Khalid, we went through the definition, the principles of Islam in terms of knowledge. We went through the contributions of Islamic culture, through the science contributions, and many more. So we're going to take a short break, and after the break we're going to discuss more elements such as the way forward, inshallah.
Inshallah.
The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away in his home in Medina.
You are listening to the program Reaching Out Through Dialogue. We will be back for more in just a moment.
Welcome back, Brother Khalid.
Thank you very much.
We're going to continue with our discussion, and we just spoke about the reasons behind Muslim lagging back in terms of development. Okay.
Yes.
Now, can Muslims go back to the advancement they were in the last 100 or 1,000 years? And if yes, what are the qualities that qualify them to do so?
Indeed, Muslims can go back to and contribute to the human civilization as they did, and better than what have done already, taking the advantage of the recent givens in general, religion in general, and Islam in religion in general and Islam in particular can play a positive role in reviving common values for mankind and uniting people for justice and equality, particularly the weaker sections in the community. So if the question is how Islam can revive its positive contribution to human civilization, we as a Muslims, we can serve Islam, which Islam contributed to the human civilization. We can serve Islam by having a correct result and sincere intention for Allah blesses an action that is done sincerely for His sake alone, even if it is little. Sincere devotion, if it becomes a constant feature of acts of worship and obedience, even if they are small or simple in the sight of the one who does them, makes them great in the sight of Allah. Second, we can serve Islam by knowing the right way of following it. The straight path means following the way of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessing of Allah be upon him, with regard to the principles, ways and means of da'wah, and being patient in adhering to that, whilst treating people with kindness and compassion. Third, we can serve Islam by making the most of all available means and circumstances. This is a great blessing, for all means are permissible except those which have been forbidden by Allah. So we call people to Allah by all means prescribed in Sharia, whilst paying attention to the evidence of Sharia and correct etiquette. Fourth, we can serve Islam by organizing our time on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. There are actions which could be done every day, others which should be done every week, and others which should be done every month or every year. Fifth, we can serve Islam by hurrying to contribute every time we find an opportunity to do good. We should not hesitate or delay or put it off. Which you do not wish for yourself, don't impose on others. This is one of the qualities which we are missing nowadays. If we reinstate these qualities, then we can go back and serve Islam and contribute it, we are as a Muslim again, to the civilization, as our grandfathers have done to the human civilization.
So, Brother Khalid, if we have the qualities, okay, how can we revive the positive contribution to human civilization?
There is no cohesion in Islam. Islam came with the word of our Creator. In Quran, God said, "Let there be no compulsion in religion. Truth stands out clear from error." We believe that what Islam really teaches has been misunderstood and quite often destroyed. If the word Islam gives rise to fear or mistrust today, it is urgent that Muslims clarify what Islam stands for. Every Muslim should expand all of his effort and energy for the society to his belonging to. Such efforts of his would be rewarded by Allah, not only in this world but hereafter also. Should I die, let my community live, for I have an everlasting life in my community. Islam attaches great importance to the health and moderation of the social structure and works to establish general peace and well-being. It does not stop at all movements that are destructive and divisive. It sees positive actions as a duty and mark, and does not permit negative actions. It makes firm love and brotherhood in the structure of society and puts forward the necessity of union and unity. Islam rejects decisively movement which destroy the common values and sincerity between members of the society, like tribalism, racialism, and negative nationalism, and regardless of religions or beliefs within one community. So how Islam can contribute to that, we need to understand the technique. We need how the Islam can contribute to the human civilization. We need to understand the teachings of the Holy Quran, for that is the source of knowledge. We must go back to Quran, which offers a comprehensive framework for morality and justice, as well as providing spiritual inspiration. All Muslims of the old schools refer to the Quran as Islam's final authority. While there may be some differences of interpretation, we believe we can demonstrate that traditional Islam has respected religious diversity and freedom. Muslims must stay loyal to their community and never break them. And this applies to all communities and traits, not merely to those with other Muslims. It is further stated that in Quran, if they incline to peace, incline to it as well, and place your trust in God. Indeed, He alone is all-hearing, all-knowing. As I've mentioned, that every Muslim should expand all of his effort and energy for the society he belongs to. Such efforts of his would be rewarded by Allah, not only in this world, but hereafter also. Islam attaches great importance to the health and moderation of the social structure and works to establish general peace and well-being. It does not countenance all the movements that are destructive and divisive. Islam holds the human soul in high esteem and considers the attack against innocent human beings a grave sin. This is emphasized by the following Quran verse. Whoever kills a human being for other than manslaughter or corruption and mischief in the earth, it shall be as if had killed all mankind. And whoever serve the life of one, it shall be as if he had served the life of all mankind. Our messengers came unto them all with clear proofs of Allah's sovereignty. But afterwards, lo, many of them became prodigalous to the earth. In fact, Muslims serve for life, not for death. In Islam and other religions, all men are equal, regardless of color. In Islam and other religions, all men are equal, regardless of color, language, race.
Now, Brother
or
Khalid,
nationality.
Brother Khalid, what are the steps that they should take to enable them to go back?
Believing that faith and reason need not to be in conflict with each other. Remarkably, there is nothing in the Quran that essentially contradicts reason or science. Nothing. Repeatedly, the Quran asks human beings to reflect, tafakkur, and use their intelligence, which is aql. Altogether, in nearly 80 instances, it mentioned the importance of reasons and reflections. One example of which is, are the blind and the seeing man equal? Will you not reflect? The equality of mankind, the equality of men and women has been recognized and sanctioned by the Quran. This equality is based on the different but complementary natures of men and women at one level, and the recognition that both, as a soul, are essential the same in the eyes of God. In fact, no document in the history of mankind has done more to secure the rights and privileges of women than the Quran. 14 centuries ago, it established for women in a positive of affection and respect, the recognition of spiritual equality, the right to own their own property, the rights within marriage and divorce, and the right to participate in business and political life. The faithful men and women are helpers and support for one another. We do not be an arrogant scholar. This is one of the things we should practice. We should not be an arrogant scholar, for scholarship cannot subset with arrogance. May God bless the man who says less and does more. So we need to practice that rather than addressing and promising. We should implement. We should put things into practice. Another principle we should apply, that do not be misled by a person's prayer and fasting. Look to his sincerity and wisdom. If we're going to implement that, definitely as a Muslim, then we are serving Islam. Then by that, we'll be contributing and reviving the Islamic contribution to the human civilization indeed.
Now, Brother Khalid, what can Muslims offer the world at this point of time?
Muslims can offer the world at this moment of time through reinstating the innovation environment. Having the innovation environment right now, leverage the innovation environment, again, simply will create that environment which was before in 1,000 years back. Then that will encourage people to give more importance on innovations, reinstating the personal responsibility. Majority of Muslims leaders often lie or deceive their own people to subordinates or to allies in order to advance their own personal agendas. So that most Muslim countries are patchwork of tribes who barely tolerate one another in the best of time. So if we're going to reinstate the personal responsibility, we are going to create the environment and leverage the capability of innovation. Another way of contributing to today's civilization is to introduce meritocracy. This is in the majority of Islam world. However, what counts in personal loyalty, personal connections, and tribes sect members. Incompetent leaders are preferred to competent ones, so long as they are properly loyal. Such states affairs mix of incredible inefficiency on a normal day and catastrophic consequences when any sort of crisis arising. So being away from this and introducing the competencies framework, whoever deserves to be assigned to a certain position, to be assigned to a certain role based on his competences, regardless of his tribe, regardless of his faith or religion. As far as his competence, then he be put in the right role that will create and leverage the innovation environment. Having and developing the skilled labor, which we are missing nowadays in Muslims society. So we need to focus more on developing our own talents in such a way those talents to be taken special care, because they are the pillar of innovation. Having the right talent at the moment, that will contribute to the human civilization and leverage the power.
As you have mentioned this, Brother Khalid, we witnessed that most of the Muslims are smart people and very intelligent.
Indeed.
As you would see that we have inventors, we have doctors, we have lawyers, and most of the famous doctors in the West are now Muslims.
Indeed.
Okay. The thing is, we need to provide them with the right environment to research, to develop, to train, okay, to improve their skills. The thing is now, they don't tend to stay in the Islamic world, and they move on to other regions where they get the facilities to practice the professionalism. Maybe you can tell us how we can sustain those Muslims.
Right. Let me share with you a quote by Napoleon, which, again, supporting what you are saying. Napoleon, as quoted in Christian Cherfell's book, Bonaparte et Islam, said, "I hope the time is not far off when I shall be able to unite all the wise and educated men of all the countries and establish a uniform regime based on the principles of Quran, which alone are true and which alone are lead men to happiness." So why people are immigrating, why Muslims people are immigrating from Islamic countries, going to another countries, trying to use their power, the intellectual power, and implement it and come with different and innovative ideas. Because in Islamic environment in general, most of the Islamic environment, with few exceptions, we don't have the right environment to cater and accommodate those people, They have special needs, which we don't develop. We tend to have more of the routine agenda, and those routine agenda are, in principle, are not in line with the innovation. Innovation is to look for something which is
Something new. You try
new.
something new, yeah.
Indeed. So we are reluctant to embrace technology in general. Innovation actually meaning to create something without a precedent. It is known in our culture today as a risky and therefore dangerous business in the Islamic world. With few exceptions, I would mention, yes, to be fair on that. So if we consider innovation is an investment to the future, then we can offer the right environment for the Islamic talents, and as well as for non-Muslim talents also, we can attract easily, having the justice in our environment and having the justice in our community. Then we can even attract non-Muslims to come and invest and practice their innovation practices in our Islamic community freely.
What about resources, Brother Khalid? Economical resources, research labs, universities. Maybe we can improve on these. I don't think we are lacking resources.
In terms of resources, in terms of the financial support, most of the Islamic countries, most of the Islamic world are rich, but the distribution of that wealth is distributed in a different way, which doesn't serve the idea of advancing technology.
Maybe it's not prioritized.
Could be that one of the reasons is not prioritized, and in many cases that we don't give ourselves honest feedback. We try to propaganda small achievements, where the main achievements which we should go ahead for them, we we are
Neglect
reluctant,
them.
Yes, or reluctant to go for that, yes, indeed.
And this, Brother Khalid, how can we conclude in today's topic? What would you like to say?
In the conclusion, first of all, I hope I have answered all the questions have been asked. Islamic culture played an important and undeniable role in advancing world civilization. Muslims carried the civilization torch during the Dark Ages, preserved and advanced the treasure of culture and knowledge for humanity. In all aspects of our daily lives, then in our homes, offices and universities, in religion, philosophy, science and the arts, we are indebted to Muslims' creativity, insights and scientific perseverance. Islam is not an alien religion. It does not claim a monopoly on a virtue or truth. It follows in the way of previous spiritual traditions that recognized one spirit operating within natural and human life. It continues on the way of the great prophets and messengers of all sacred traditions. We are reaching out with hands of friendship. We wish to be seen as allies in attaining goals that are common to all humanity: social justice, ecological sanity, world peace, and human dignity.
Dear listeners, today we have discussed the following elements: civilization, Islamic principles on knowledge and development, the Islamic influence on the modern world, the Islamic contribution to the world of science. We have also discussed why majority of Muslims are lagging behind, how Muslims can revive positive contribution to the human civilization. Brother Khalid mentioned steps that Muslims can take to go forward. Dear Muslims, we have a rich heritage of achievements that made us prosper through our generations. We need to hold on to these achievements and also need to revive the Islamic spirit of seeking knowledge through understanding and contemplating the Quran. There seems to be a necessity to the diversity of religions, and this diversity may help us to understand our humanity and our relationship to Allah. Dear listeners, today we have discussed the following elements: civilization, Islamic principles on knowledge and development, the Islamic influence on the modern world, the Islamic contribution to the world of science. We have also discussed why majority of Muslims are lagging behind, how Muslims can revive positive contribution to the human civilization. Brother Khalid mentioned steps that Muslims can take to go forward. Dear Muslims, we have a rich heritage of achievements that made us prosper throughout generations. We need to hold on to these achievements and also need to revive the Islamic spirit of seeking knowledge through understanding and contemplating the Quran. There seems to be a necessity to the diversity of religions, and this diversity may help us to understand our humanity and our relationship to Allah. Brother Khalid Al-Rawahi, thank you so much for this interesting topic, and I hope that you join us in the next season, inshallah. I'm your host, Hatim Al-Asalam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.